Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fireside with Founders and Leaders podcast. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Gemma McCarthy-Maidment, who is currently a product leader at a company called ESG Book. Now, we talk all about Gemma's career up until now, as well as looking at sustainability in the tech world, sustainability in product, the importance of mentorship, and female leadership in organizations, as well as a whole host of other discussion points that I know people will get benefit for. So whether you're a product leader in the product world or just in the tech world and wanting to understand a bit more, this one's going to be a great episode for you to watch or listen to. So all there is for me to do is let you enjoy. Hello, Gemma. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, lovely to see you.
Well, I should say welcome back to the podcast, because although it's not being released, we have done this before in person about 6 months ago. And I'm going to probably say it was almost certainly something that I did or didn't do as to why the sound didn't record properly to a good enough quality that we could release it. So here we are again. Thank you for giving up your time again. And let's see if we can create that magic again. No pressure.
Well, today it's very, very rainy, and from memory, it was a beautifully sunny day last time we did.
Yeah, it was summer. It was summer. You'd not long got married, and things were looking good. You were looking for a job. You've now found a new job at the moment. So I'm sure we'll talk a bit about that. We've got some great topics still to talk about, and I think some genuinely sort of interesting points. But I'm going to start, as I always do, and as we did last time, with you giving a bit of a potted history, if you like, in terms of your background and your career to date, please.
Of course. All right. So I'm Gemma McCarthy-Maidment, and I'm currently the Chief Product Officer sitting on the exec of a small company called ESG Book. We help banks and financial institutions gather the sustainability data that they need, either for their reporting, for their transition financing, or their kind of like net zero targets. So that's what I'm doing right now. I have spent the last, I should know this off by heart, and suddenly I don't know. I've spent the last decade or more working in B2B data SaaS platforms, working in product. I started as a product manager at a company called Mentorship. That's where I kind of really got my hands into digital product management, working with a development team. And then I was very lucky to be promoted to VP of product there. Brilliant team, great product, lots of digital transformation. Since then, I have led product teams and scaled products and delivered digital transformation across a couple of different companies, still in the B2B SaaS space. So, if anyone's got any questions about that, I'm well-versed and experienced. My career before product, though, was probably interesting. Now, I think everyone has different routes in. I started my career in product marketing, product line management, and market strategy in kind of like a large engineering company, very much in the defense and security space. I then had a complete career shift in many ways. I worked for a UX agency called Web Credible. I think you know Trenton, who used to run Web Credible.
He's been on the podcast.
Indeed. So he was great, founder to work for. So I went from this humongous global corporate to a very small user experience agency. I was running marketing there, and then had the pleasure of also running the training academy there. And the skills that I picked up whilst doing that were hugely valuable to the world of product. But I had no idea the world of product existed at the time. So it was happenstance that then got me into the product world, and I'm still here today.
And there you go. The rest, as they say, is history. So thank you. That's a really good insight into some of the things you've been doing. And what's clear and what stands out to me is that experience in the B2B world, specifically like data heavy, like really data driven organizations and products that you've worked on. Now, the market as a whole over the last So in a couple of years, it's definitely much better now. And I think actually the market being an excuse as we record this, we're November 2025, and I feel like actually as a tech market feels fairly normal, dare I say that, whatever normal is these days. But certainly the jobs market has been tough. However, like B2B products have been an area of focus for a lot of people, because that seems to be an area that's had the most traction that I've seen over the last couple of years. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that, just generally as someone who was also looking in the market as a job seeker not so long ago, like how you see all of that, how it's all played out over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I should probably start by saying that I started my career wanting to work and run like really big multinational corporates, and there's lots of history as to where that came from. But I eventually realized that what I really wanted to do was work with consumer products where people knew the brand that you were working for and you could properly relate to what you were doing. That's never happened. So actually, I've never quite managed to switch lanes out of the original path that I went down. And actually, I think that's one of the themes that I've seen when talking with other people as well, looking for roles, is that experience that you build, particularly as you get more kind of, I guess, senior in your career.
Yeah.
That experience that you build up is really valuable. And there's lots of people that have got lots of varied experience. And actually, in the last year or so, talking with them, they're struggling a little bit more because they aren't so easy to identify as a clean match.
Yeah.
So I suppose one of the things that I've seen is around specializing, which doesn't feel natural for me as a product person to say, right? Because I truly believe that product skills are transferable.
Yeah.
However, that is what I'm seeing. So being able to truly say, like, I've seen B2B data and SaaS now across 4 different organizations, and I've run those teams and scaled those teams. The challenges are different, but they're also kind of all rooted in the same thing. So you do find it easier, I think, to come in and land, but also to interview, because actually lots of what you've experienced, the people on the other side of the table are experiencing exactly the same thing. So that's probably what I've seen. I think I shifted into the PE space a good couple of years ago. And that as well has brought its own learnings to me. But I think that's probably the space where we're seeing lots of growth in terms of product roles and tech.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. And you've led some fairly sizable digital transformations, right? These things, and they're generally pretty complex, right? There's multiple teams, multiple objectives, multiple opinions, headaches, etc. Like, talk to me a bit more about some of the things that you've seen where maybe things have been overly complex, things have felt a bit stuck, and then you've had to try and break through to get things to work, because I think people sometimes don't understand necessarily how you get from A to B and looking at the value that can be added along the way.
I mean, I think all digital transformations are complex.
Yeah.
The ones that I have been a part of or have led have been particularly challenging for a number of reasons. I think that you always look at these things and you're like, oh, I need to change the platform, the product, the tech. And actually those things are quite difficult to land on. What is the future state that we should be going after? So bringing together small groups of people, doing lots of active listening in the business, actually being a new person coming in can be quite helpful to do that.
Yeah.
Creating vision types or North Stars really, really helps to create that future vision. And on the PE side, actually being able to then put some money behind that. So actually, what's the benefit of doing this? Why should we do this? Why should we do it in that order? So working really closely with your commercial partners as well, I think is really critical, so that you can try to quantify actually why should you invest in this and why should you invest in it now? Now, those bits are complicated and complex, and they take some time and, I would say, focus. So trying to create a small team that can really help you and focus on doing that is important. But actually, I think my lessons is that the hardest part is people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Always. Biggest asset, but the hardest part as well.
so like you go in and it doesn't matter how good your plan is, how clear your strategy is, your North Star, actually changing an organization's perception of itself, what it thinks it should be, creating buy-in and shared understanding of those things is quite tricky. And
Yeah.
in my background, all of the organizations I have joined have not been new. So it is that you've got lots of legacy. This is how we've always done it. You've got also lots of clients and lots of contracts and lots of conversations that have happened that have had expectations of things coming from the product team for a long time. So you've got a little, in some ways, disappointment to manage as well along the way. So it's not just changing, but it's also kind of like you take on all of the baggage that has come before you. So yeah, I would say that that's probably one of the hardest challenges for me. And the way that I tend to go about this is very much around trying to build the relationships with the people that I need to work with, identifying who maybe the biggest change challenges might be. And ultimately, it's about being empathetic. And I'm sure everyone hears that word all the time. But for me, what that means is actually genuinely putting yourself in their shoes and thinking about what's making them nervous, what might challenge them in this change of direction or in this strategy. How can you help them to understand that you understand that, and actually how do you bring things in to support what they need, and what they might think they need to prioritize and things like that. But ultimately, I mean, we talked about this earlier today, it comes down to strength of conviction. So once you've got a direction, you need to lead it from the front, from behind, from everywhere that you can, so that and create that excitement about it to get everyone in the organization essentially following your lead in some ways. So yeah, it's challenging. Any other questions? We could be here all day just talking about this.
And in terms of, I suppose, look, has there perhaps been a moment whereby you've led with empathy, and that's really changed the direction of a project, or even potentially changed someone's career, right? Because these things can be career defining, and we're all about helping people ultimately as leaders in the business. Like, we get the best for the business, we get the best for us, we get the best for the people that we're leading. That's the end goal. So yeah, talk to me about like a time where doing that, leading with empathy, has really sort of changed someone's career or changed a project.
One of my favorite books that I read actually while I was at Mintel, so it was probably like 2016 or something like that, was Radical Candor by Kim Scott.
Great
And
book.
one of the things, it is a really great book. One of the things that she taught me in that book actually is to make sure that you're looking at a person very holistically. So you're understanding what came before and where do they want to go next, and actually taking a real step back from not just looking at them within the context of the role and the company that you're in right now, but actually their life and their future. And then helping them to be able to achieve that. So I mean, I've done that. I've done that with as many people as possible. You have to invest quite a lot of time to do it, and I think that's helped me to really understand. Like, I might have aspirations for this person, or I might be thinking about where their job might be able to go next, or what opportunities to give them. But that's based off of like my context and what I think that they might want, and actually really understanding what they want and what they might need, and helping them to achieve that is good. So there's been a number of times where perhaps I've actually helped people to leave a role, leave a team, and they were so critical to me and my success, but actually for them that was the right move. So yeah, as a leader, I think that's probably, it's a difficult thing to do because you're very much putting that person above the current needs of the business, even maybe. But it has always ended out well. Like, those people have come back and worked for me again. like they've grown and they've added to the business in other places where potentially in an even much bigger way than they could have in the role if they had been sort of stuck in a role. So I think that's probably one side, which is I guess kind of like positive in two ways.
Yeah.
I think the other side around it, though, is actually also just the radical kind of part about honesty and being able to spot, and I haven't always done this well or acted quick enough on it, being able to really understand from someone, what drives them and what gets the best out of them, and to understand whether maybe they're just not in the right role for them, maybe they're not in the right role for them anymore.
Yeah.
So I think that can be very tricky as a leader to get to the point of understanding of, and then even harder to action.
How do you create the environment whereby people are able to sort of speak up and talk about these things, but also speak up to influence product development, like where ultimately you're empowering your people, right? Giving them agency. How do you do that? How do you create that environment?
That's a great question. So one of the things that I really believe in is actually bringing a kind of coaching culture or coaching approach into your day-to-day as a leader. So that would be more around like asking good questions rather than bringing in your perspective or being too directive. You have to balance it, because sometimes time means that actually we just need to get something done. Can we just do it? I tried to not do that too much or too often, because that definitely is disempowering. But I think if you can bring that into your day-to-day rhetoric and the way that you lead with your direct team, but also with others in the organization, I think that goes quite far to creating that culture of empowerment. And then ultimately you get more people that grow and are motivated to do a good job and able to do a good job.
Yeah, and that's the key, right? If you want to empower them so they can get on and do the job that they're there to do. Otherwise, you're just constantly having to look after people, babysit them, for want of a better phrase, which is time consuming and draining and not much fun for most people.
No. And I mean, I had a great coach, Alex Walker. She's brilliant. And she talked to me a lot about kind of creating the parameters for success, or she called it like setting out the dance floor.
Yeah.
So actually it's not your job to move the people or to create the moves or any of those things, but actually create the context so everyone knows what's required and what you need to be able to do your job well. And then they can get on with it, and you're kind of like moving all the pieces in the right way, and providing that structure in the right way, so that you have confidence that actually everything's going well. You have the means to see if it isn't, and to support it, but also then you can step away from things when you need to.
I think that's important, isn't it? In having those frameworks that can really help to give clear vision of what you're doing and how you're doing it, and that's across the board. We were talking earlier again off air about like product strategy, and I think I called it product finesse. Whether it's product finesse or not, that's down for other people to decide. But within product, there are lots of frameworks that ultimately you can follow. You don't have to follow them, and sometimes, as you said earlier, you don't follow them because you just need to get shit done, and you're like, okay, we just need to do this quick and dirty, and like get to a point whereby we can move on to the next thing. But how do you, I suppose, get people on board with working to frameworks like this, whereby ultimately they should benefit people, but knowing that they don't have to use them all of the time, so it's not so rigid. Like if you always have to use framework A or framework B, for example.
Yeah. So I've done a few different things in the past where I've kind of like scaling out teams, and to be honest, putting in the frameworks is important, I suppose, in different places and in different ways, depending on the big challenge. So in some of the organizations, actually, the biggest challenge has been around just resilience and motivation in the team. So actually, I focused there. In others, it has been around product practice and the kind of product life cycle. The way that I go about it is very much trying to adapt what you read in the books or what you've used before to the context that you're in. And actually, and I haven't always done this well, but it's worked best when I've walked the team through that and said, like, this is why we need to do these things. This is why we need to do them in this order. This is roughly what I'm expecting. But actually, like, I'm not going to template this. I'm not going to give you all of the answers. And I think it depends on how mature and how skilled your product team is. So I've had some product teams that, are highly experienced. They're all kind of senior principal staff level. So actually at that point, you're like, right, we just need to set out some frameworks so that the rest of the business knows what to expect from us. So like set out a kind of version of the double diamond, or this is how we want to think about prioritization. This is our kind of product practice and sequencing. And that's all I've needed to do, because they all know what to do and there's literally no point putting extra process in on top. Whereas there's other teams where actually we've got such a varied level of skill and experience that you need to put in more precise guardrails. So actually, when you're coming to do discovery, these are the things that I expect to be able to answer by the end. So, I'll coach you and help you to work out how to do discovery if you don't know it. But at the very least, like, this is the answers that we need before we can go through onto the next phase. So I think you need to vary it. But actually, the things that I have found work well is making sure you share why, why do I have to do discovery and then do this?
Right.
And then also just the expectations of what types of questions am I looking to answer from the research or from whatever the framework is trying to support you with. I think those two things can help quite a lot.
Nice. And sustainability is something that I want to talk about, because I think that sustainability is a buzzword, but it's more than a buzzword for you. I think actually it's baked into your product thinking, realistically, not just at ESG, but everywhere that you've been. So was there a moment for you when sustainability, it became like personal and you realized that product decisions were actually influencing ethical supply chains? Like, talk to me about that.
Yeah, I can. So actually, I think, I started my career in the defense industry. So, that wasn't great. But I think that the moment was probably during COVID. So lots was going on in the world. And I think we took a good look at ourselves actually as a family. And we made some decisions about what we felt this world should be like. What should we leave behind for our children? Like, how do we influence that? And it's very important for everyone to kind of like make those changes in their personal lives. But ultimately, I realized that I had spent lots of my career trying to get big brands to earn more money. And maybe there's something more that I could do with my skill set. So Mintel, there was lots of support to be able to kind of like go down the sustainability route in terms of the products and the research that we were delivering. Similar in GfK, we were able to release some sustainability data into the kind of competitive analysis that we were providing. And then I landed the opportunity to work at SEDEX. And SEDEX was very much around ethical and sustainable supply chain management. Obviously now I'm at ESG book.
Yeah.
So that moment was really powerful to me, but I didn't really know how to act on it. And in my mind, it was around releasing products that help other businesses to do better things or like to become more sustainable in one way or another. But not everyone actually has the opportunity to work on those products. And these markets are shifting all the time. I mean, we've got lots of political challenges at the minute in the sustainability industry that's changing that kind of hyper growth.
Drill, baby, drill.
So
it's always coming up.
So the other things to think about are actually the ethical or the social, environmental impacts of the decisions that you're actually making. So thinking about your use of AI, thinking about your data centers, all of those types of things. There is work that we can all do in product to really think about how we bring those things in to our decision making. Now, I haven't done a lot in that space. I've worked for fairly small organizations where our footprints are actually fairly small. So I'm still focused on delivering products that can help other organizations to do a better job.
How do you balance like sustainability with sometimes that we talked about the pressure to move fast, right? Just get things done. And I think that's actually, as a society, like often we overlook sustainability. We'll talk about, I say we all talk about, some people or the majority of people talk about wanting to do things in a more sustainable way, but then either prohibitive on cost or time is often two prohibiting factors. So how do you balance that in your day to day?
So there is that kind of like say do gap that we all know from market research. That and it is a real challenge. So there's a couple of things that I think come to play that I've had to manage in the past, and one of them is actually going too far was sustainability. So I have in the past worked with people that were very, very determined that we have to do this, like our algorithms or our methodology has to be perfect. Like very, very academically, really, in the sustainability space, let's say. But our clients aren't ready for that. They don't have the capabilities to take that on. And actually, as a business, we're not going to make money from that.
Yeah.
So that balance between launching and managing sustainable focused products that still make money and going just far enough into the methodology, that is a difficult thing to balance. And I think that's interesting, and it adds a third dimension, actually, or maybe a fourth one. So you've obviously got like profit that you have to go after, and all of the different things that kind of entails. You've got your client experience, tech feasibility, like you've got all of these different things, and then on top of that, you've also got our determination to be mission driven and to do the right thing. And all of a sudden, you've got like another prioritization metric or parameter to think about. So yeah, I think that is an interesting challenge. On a personal side, it's really tough. So as a parent, the convenience of the world is not doesn't lead for you to become very easily sustainable in your own life. No. So we have found that it has to be a very proactive decision, but you also have to be kind on yourself. And I heard, I was at a sustainability conference and they were like, we are our own worst enemies. Like we all scour each other in negative ways when one of us is taking a flight or, but like who's setting that bar is too high.
Yeah.
Small actions, if you do small things going in the right direction, then it's better than nothing at all. So
that's it. You can't do everything, and I think we're told, aren't we? Like, look at this. So, for example, we've done this twice now in terms of this podcast. So not the most sustainable thing to do, but this sort of stuff happens. But you could look at it two ways, right? Saying doing an in-person podcast versus an online podcast, which is the most sustainable? Because you've got the balance of, you're using all that sort of computer power, which is how sustainable is that when you look behind it? But oh no, you're getting in a car and jumping on a train, and that's then not sustainable. So sustainability isn't about doing nothing. It's about making small changes that can hopefully have a positive impact on a sort of a larger scale ultimately.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, ultimately there's going to need to be some big changes, and unfortunately the regulations are not going, I think, as strongly as we would have hoped to cause or to help influence that. But yes, the small changes are important, so don't give up on those.
Yeah. When I've spoken to you before, I've known you in terms of some of your like the mentorship work that you've done, your advocacy for women in tech. So I'd like to talk a bit about that, obviously, because it's something that you, I think, hold close to your heart and at your core, and it's something that you've got lots of experience in. So can you share to me like some of your stories around sort of mentoring and some of those moments perhaps as to why this kind of stuff matters?
Yes, absolutely. So there's been a couple of moments, I think, in my career where I've realized that this stuff genuinely really does matter. and it matters. And you're kind of like doing this without even realizing it. So one of my old tech leads at TEDx, she said this great kind of phrase to me. She said, "Your shadow is larger the closer you are to the sun."
That's so good.
I love it. And honestly, it was like it's obvious, but at the same time, it's one of those like kind of mind-blowing moments where she's like, "Gemma, you're really senior. Like people look to you for your reaction. They look to you for inspiration, even if you don't realize that you're giving it." And it trickles down to places, probably to people you don't even know. Like, and that was really interesting. And so I think for anyone that's representing an underrepresented group, you are, by even just being in your role, giving inspiration to other people, giving permission, opening those doors, like leading by example, I think is really important. And so for me, that was one of those moments where I was like, actually, because there was a moment where I was like, I don't know if this is working. Like, I don't know if I'm actually having the impact that I need to be an ally, like to support women in tech. And actually, I realized that even if I wasn't proactively on stage talking, receiving awards, like all of those sorts of things, even just by being being in the place that you are and being visible and being accessible, you're already doing a great thing.
Yeah, and you don't need to be up on stage getting awards the whole time. Like that's not for. If everyone was doing that, then there'd be no time to do actually any supportive work, right? You can get lost in thinking, okay, well, I need to be more visible. I need to do all of these other things, and I've certainly been there. But actually, you're right. It's the people in the environment that you're working in that need you the most, and sometimes you won't even know whether you're making an impact on them because most of the time they don't necessarily know, and they're not going to always come up and go, "Thank you so much for saying that the other day. It meant the world to me." Whereas it might do though, but you just don't know. So you've just got to keep going and doing these things to help people on the path that they're on as well.
Absolutely. And I've had people come back to me actually like years later and be like, "Thank you so much. Like I have the confidence to, I don't know, work part-time now that I'm a mom, and I wouldn't have done that if you hadn't like helped me to see that there is other ways to be both a woman at work and a woman at home."
Yeah.
For instance, and even if I go back to when I was a graduate, the very first, and I didn't realize it at the time, but one of my sales directors said he had a daughter, and he was like, she needs to do a week's worth of work experience. I was like, I've got it.
Yeah,
I can do it. And I put her through a whole week of coming in, like designing a product. It was with tech in engineering, work with developers, like, we had like physical engineering as well. So work with kind of manufacturing side, really think about the problem. And we gave her and then think about the marketing and go to market. We gave her this whole week where she worked with lots of different people. And it was probably 10 years later that sales director, kind of messaged me. It was like, by the way, my daughter is now like leading innovation in this massive engineering organization. You inspired her. And and you're just like, I literally was, someone asked me a question and I just like, yeah, of course I can do that.
a real like wow moment, right? Where you go, oh, I made a difference. At least you didn't go off and decide to become I don't know, Instagram influencer or something like that. You're like, oh, I tried. So
I mean, it might also be that too. But yeah, but I think, and the interesting thing on reflection was that I'm not sure that weeks of work experience would have happened if I hadn't been in my role, because actually I was the only female that was in that office really that was that could kind of put that together.
Yeah.
Would you have asked one of the guys that was there? I don't know if he would have.
They have said yes as well because they might have felt uncomfortable, like the boss's daughter. Like, what if she doesn't get on well, or this is going to be a pain in my ass having to like babysit someone for a week, extra work. But you empowered yourself to go and do it.
Yeah, so like it's it is about being there and then just helping to open the doors for other people, I think. And yeah, that was a good first moment.
And why do you think organisations still sort of misunderstand the supporting of women in the industry and in the workplace?
I think that there's loads of challenges. So actually, if you look at the data, the story is very, very clear. And I had the opportunity at one of my organizations. We had a really good diversity team. They were fantastic. And I was like this kind of CPO diversity ambassador. And we spent a lot of time finding data and analyzing the data within our organization. And what we found was that on entry into the organization, from a gender perspective, it was fairly evenly split, 50-50. So entry-level roles, 50-50. After we did the analysis, I think that it was something like, of those entry-level people, you were 70% more likely to reach the exec if you were a guy. 70% more likely. Or it could have been worse. I can't remember. It was a while ago.
Could have easily been more. And that sadly, that stat doesn't shock me, and it probably won't shock a lot of people.
No, but seeing it actually written down in numbers was really, really beneficial, I think, because you see the stories and you see the kind of more generalized fact. Like everyone knows, like as you say, people wouldn't necessarily be surprised by that. But when you look at it for your organization specifically, all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, what is going on here? And then you have to look into why and like where is everyone dropping off? And again, I think it's very personal. I wouldn't really want to generalize. But for me, there's a couple of things. I think having representation at the top of different of different groups, but from my perspective, from a female perspective, I think is really important. Again, just coming back to that, your shadow is greater the closer you are to the sun. That influence that you have to inspire people and to show that it's possible, I think is really important. And I think that still is going to take some time to happen. But you need to set that up to happen, right? So you need people progressing all the way through. Now, I think that there's challenges in particular about women having children. So, I mean, as a very personal example, when I came back from maternity leave, I had the opportunity to apply and was successful in getting my first VP of product role. But the terms were that I had to be full time.
Yeah.
And actually, like that was a long time ago. Like things might be different there now. But at the same time, that didn't really facilitate me to be the person I wanted to be, which actually was both. I wanted to be both mom and VP of product. Like I had both of those ambitions that I wanted to be. So I think that there are daily decisions and things that are in organizations' policies that don't necessarily facilitate women to be able to stay and to continue their career trajectories at the same pace. So, I mean, it's just one example. There are so many examples of the challenges. I think there's challenges with paternity leave, the perception of it, the availability of it. All of those things are also real challenges. Like how do you, it takes a household, or a community to raise a child. Like actually you need all of the right things to be in place to support that. But that's just one element. I think obviously the representation is one of those. But yeah, like we could talk about this for a long time.
Well, I think the Danish have got it fairly, and whether it's 100% right, but I think they do a really good job. We're talking about like maternity and paternity of shared parental leave, and as a country and a society, they do really well to be backed by their government to make sure that they're working as a unit, and so that allows companies to also continue to operate, which is the important thing. And I think that's where like organizations struggle with being able to sort of give maybe sometimes women like promotions into certain roles, because they go, well, what if that person goes off on maternity leave and we're going to be left with that person? Or no, you couldn't possibly do this work role like 3 days a week, or having job share, right, is another opportunity, right? So all of these things they're out there, they're available. We just need to, it comes back to setting frameworks. Ultimately, we just need to set the frameworks in this country, is my belief, to allow people and organizations to offer these things.
Yeah. But I do think that the influencer piece can also, as much as it can be helpful, not that I'm an influencer, but at the same time, giving that perception that you can genuinely have it all and do it all, I think can also be quite unhealthy. So
it's not true. I know it. I know someone who shall remain nameless, but as an influencer, and you see her like Instagram and TikTok. Not that I'm on it, but it's like this perfect bliss, this perfect world. It's not like that in real life.
No,
Like,
and
why do you do that then? Why do you portray this? Because people are looking at this, like young people, women, men, coming through, going, "Oh, my life's not perfect. Why is it not perfect like this? It's dangerous."
And so actually seeing mothers who are like literally apparently like winning at all aspects of their life. They're looking after themselves, they're looking after their families, they've got these high powered roles and jobs. Like that's amazing. But like maybe for them that works, right? And they're sacrificing something else that you can't see. But actually it's all very, very personal. And this is something that I've seen, both females and males that have come back to work from maternity leave, or even just entering a different phase of their life or their career. And they kind of yearn for either what they think they should be or what they used to want to be. So that's really interesting. So like I had one person that worked for me and they were like, I used to be like the product person. I was at all of the meetups, I was doing talks, I was doing all of these things. And now I haven't got time to do that because I've got kids and I've got all of these other things. And so I feel like I'm not good enough anymore. Like I feel like, they have this sort of insecurities around it. And it's tricky, but it's actually about understanding. And again, I was on a Women in Tech panel, and one of the panelists, she was amazing. She was like, you've got to think about it as the next chapter in your book. Like turn the page. You've had a great chapter before where that's what you were striving to be, and that's what success meant to you then. But actually you've got to have a good hard look at yourself and be like, what does success mean to you now in your life? And it might not be being the product person. It might actually be being the person that earns a good salary, that has great friends at work, that is, you're doing a great job, but you're at home and you're learning how to be a parent, and you're, like nurturing these human beings that you have rising your life. Like, so
full-time job in itself, right? And
I think that's whether you're a parent or not, to be honest. I think really thinking about what does success look like for the context that you're in right now is genuinely really important. And people will talk about imposter syndrome, like you have it about your own self and your own goals as well as within your role at work, but just making sure that you're really thinking about the context that you're in, and you're thinking about what's most important right now, and only trying to judge yourself and measure yourself against those things, I think is really important. And being able to shift your perception of yourself is important.
100%. That's the thing. The biggest blocker is normally getting out of your own way, right? With these things, it's your own perception, because most people, you think everyone's looking at you and going, like, these people think this, that, and the other. And actually, most of the time, no one's really looking. No one really cares, apart from like your close family. And most of the time, they don't care about the perception. They care about, are you happy ultimately in yourself? So, cool. Well, there's some other things before we go too deep into sort of psychology, which is great. I love this stuff, by the way. But there is something else that I wanted to talk to you about, because you've run like international teams, different levels across the board. One of the things that I find massively interesting, and I think people will gain some benefit from understanding sort of how you do things, is looking at how you keep international teams aligned without forcing this sort of one-size-fits-all thinking that can sometimes happen within organizations. Like you go, this is just the way it works in this organization, but actually when you're dealing with people across borders, it's not that simple. You can't have that one size fits all thinking most of the time. I say possibly can. It's not impossible, but so how do you keep international teams aligned?
I think that's a really interesting point. And actually the same can be reflected in your product as well, right? So actually the the needs or the way that someone might look at a platform or judge it from one location to another can be completely different. So this is a very good question. Ultimately, I actually believe that if you are one team, you kind of still need some kind of underlying raison d'etre or like brand or something, right? Like as a team, you need a personality and a
Yeah.
culture. But culture isn't just one thing. It's it's about how you feel or the way that we behave or what we might expect of each other. So in the past, I've done exercises where actually, as a team, as an international team, we kind of try to define like what do we want to be known for as a team? What do we? And actually, the easiest way to start is what do we not want to be known for?
Yeah.
So yeah, good tip. We tried it the other way around, but we got lots more insights as to what we don't want to be
Yeah.
known for.
Nice.
And then obviously you can kind of switch those on their heads, turn them into, I guess, kind of cultural principles. Then what do we expect that behavior to look like? And you can pull examples then from all sorts of different cultures, places, people, depending on what's happening. So it might be that actually if you're located in a place where the office is, and we want to have a very kind of personable, close knit team, maybe that's one of the things we want to be known for. Then actually going into the office is potentially one of those behaviors that we would expect to see of each other and kind of coordinate those things and come in together. Whereas you can also imagine seeing that remotely by sharing pictures of what you've been up to on the weekend, or like the behaviors might be different,
Mm.
but the ultimate goal or result, I suppose, is the same. So I think that that's one of the things that I've definitely done and seen work fairly well, is about creating those principles around your culture, but being quite clear on examples of behaviors and making sure that those are then relevant to the different locations that you have your teams.
Nice. And then it stops misalignment, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, everyone's on the same page, singing from the same hymn sheet, whatever you want to say, and
Yeah.
working in the right way.
Yeah, definitely. It is challenging, and there's lots that you have to consider. So I always try to be very mindful of the fact that quite often my teams have been majority co-located, and then you've got like a couple of people that are elsewhere in
Yeah.
different time zones or what have you. Like that tends to be the way that the teams, like my direct teams, have been set up. So actually being really mindful and talking with the people that are remote to make sure you're understanding, like, right, we need to do a team workshop. Does it work better for you if A, we're all in the office and you're online, B, we're all at home, like, C, shall I do it as 2 half days, because actually being online that long is too much. Like
Yeah.
working through with them to work out what works for them, so that you can adapt the way that you're working together. But bringing people together to solve a problem together
Yeah.
is critical. And for me, the best tool ever is genuinely getting together at some point in person.
Yeah. I think
Getting
it's
everyone together in person to just get to know each other is yeah.
it's been overlooked, and I think with all the changes that are happening in technology, I think it's the differentiator these days, is that being in person. And like, whilst remote working is great, and I think people all appreciate an element of remote working in their working week and working lives. Most people, because you can't put everyone in the same category because everyone's different, but most people that are certainly that I speak to would like to get together over the course of time with people. They don't want to be seeing people through a screen all the time.
Mm.
And the companies that are remote first working, they get it right by at least having these sort of set times where they all get together as a group, and go and do things for workshops, but also do things for fun, like get to know each other personally and get to know the people that you're working with, not just the worker.
No, it makes such a big difference. And I mean, even if you're looking outside of your direct team, working in global businesses, honestly, one trip to a place that feels like it's outside of the decision-making bubble, one trip in person for them to see you, get to know you, understand who you are as a person, as well as them to be able to work through some of those challenges together, make a world of difference. It's amazing. Like, I mean, I've worked with people where, you know, we've tried so many different things, weekly sessions, monthly workshops, like, you know, like global product sessions, all of these different things, and they all help a little bit, but actually one trip, like it took one trip. And then for a couple of years we were good, you know. So yeah, like that. I think also don't underestimate actually the importance of, and we didn't need the whole team to travel. Like I traveled, you know, like and that was all it needed, and then I could, you know, kind of move the chess pieces around as required. But yeah, I think that was, yeah. So unfortunately, my advice is do some stuff in person.
Go and see people. Get out. Now, I just mentioned a second ago that the landscape is changing. Technology is moving faster than ever before. So, as a final question for you, what do you think product leaders can be doing to prepare for the future? Like, what should they be preparing for?
I think that there's currently a bit of a challenge for product leaders and product teams where the appetite for genuinely future looking work is diminished or actually not there yet. So there's a pressure to know the roadmap. There's a pressure to know the roadmap maybe for the next 12 months, which obviously in product we're like, heart attack moment. But actually the pressure to look any further than that, I don't think comes from the business. And actually, I think one of the most important things that we can do as product leaders is help to evidence and put in place why genuinely looking further out is important and beneficial, and then training our teams to be able to do that. So I think that that's probably one of the most important things, is actually finding the time, permission, parameters, and budget to even look further out, right? If we look at AI, why not? We haven't talked about it yet. But we've chosen something else.
Wasn't it? Come on.
We were doing so well.
Yeah.
Anyway, how many of us are actually really thinking towards the future for that? Or how many of us are just like, right, there's here's a thing, let's do what we can to get it in. And even I think as like some of the best product leaders I talk to, they know that they should be looking further out. They know that they should be getting ready for the future and not just kind of like dealing with the here and now fires or opportunities. But it's very difficult to get that permission.
Yeah.
For me, though, working in the PE space, there's a really good way of doing it. And if you think about like McKinsey's 3 horizons framework, we talk about frameworks a lot today. Actually thinking about that in terms of investment, in terms of business strategy, that will help you to think about actually what do we need to be doing now? Like what green shoots do we need to be researching or evidencing so that we've got what we need to be able to put together the business case for the next round of investment? And I think that thinking about it like that is probably really, really helpful. So I think in terms of your question around how do we prepare for the future, I think is by making space to prepare for the future and finding the reasons as to why you should invest in that. But from more of a product, I guess, practice perspective, I think that there's going to be shifts in our roles. I think there's going to be shifts in the industry, and how we harness those changes and make sure that we actually take a really good hard look at ourselves and think about how our purpose is to help businesses to grow, is to take the right things to market by finding the right user problems and solving those as quickly as possible. What do we need to change in ourselves or in our product practice or in our tooling or whatever it is to be able to make sure that we continue to be that a trusted place, or even start to be in some organizations, that trusted place where actually there's all of these different variables and different levers that we could pull, and we put together the right recommendations for the business as to this is the lever we should pull, or this is the direction we should go in, or this is a decision we need to make about our products. I think there is going to be a change, and I think actually thinking about how we upskill, particularly product people coming up, to be able to really embody that decision making and that recommendation engine that we as humans become, regardless of the tools. Like that's the product role. How do you work well with humans? How do you work well with tech, to be able to make the right recommendations to your business as quickly as humanly possible? Because everyone wants everything yesterday, even more so now because they think that they can do it themselves using ChatGPT.
And that's the world we live in. The joys. Well, Gemma, this has been absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, your insights, and like sharing all the energy that you bring to the product community and the tech community. So I think and I hope that second time round this has been equally as good as the first episode that we recorded, if not better. So thank you so much for having the conversation today.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.